On last season's finale episode, I shared my concerns with Alex and Joe over the bouts of shrinkage I was experiencing while out on the trail. Well, 2 years on, and I get to the top of the hill at the end of my run. And as I'm catching my breath, I look out at Halifax Harbor, and it all comes into focus. Everything is experience points. Back in 2020, we were in the middle of a pandemic. PlayStation 5 hadn't even come out yet. I was a level 1 runner, and my penis was all shriveled up. Shameful. Now I'm level 2, and my dick is like totally normal. My name is Jeremy, that's Joe, and that's Alex, and this is the JoyCircuit podcast. We survived the dark timeline, which we've kind of tried to chronicle as much as we can.
Yeah, feels like 10 fucking years, to be honest with you.
So now I've moved away again.
Yeah.
So that's me.
You're traveling, man.
Yeah. Can't stay.
Always
can't
have
stay
been.
put.
You still got the Quebec area code.
I do.
I have no comments on that.
Nobody wants to keep me. I got to keep moving on.
All right, guys, so welcome back. In this episode, we will reflect on the course video game adaptations have taken since the early 90s up until present times, where properties like The Last of Us on HBO and the Super Mario Bros. Movie have raised the bar significantly. And stick around until the end of the episode, and we will even get into some exciting adaptation prospects for the future. And God, I love doing this. You know?
That's the problem with paper.
Yeah.
It's like the news anchors do it all the time.
Yeah. You
TSN.
probably know. When you're doing your, when you're teaching, Joe, do you have paper or do you read from
I have slides.
PowerPoint?
I have slides, yeah. But I don't shuffle anything. I have nothing to shuffle.
Well, you should probably fix that.
No. What do I do? I'm trying to think of what like my tick is when I'm teaching. I 100% have one, but I guess you'd have to ask my students.
We'll get them on the podcast next episode.
So you're gonna get like a badass stick, the one that you get in and you just like whip it out, and then you start like pointing with that, hitting the board.
I think they
Be
frown
very
on
dramatic.
whipping stuff out in universities these days.
Then you know what you should do? Whip out a lightsaber. Bring a lightsaber that works that you can hit things with,
Yeah.
and then just use that as your pointy stick. Could you do that? Would you get in trouble?
I mean, I can do anything I want in my class.
That's what I
I'm
figured.
the king of my classroom.
Then you should.
Honestly, the culture we're living in, like, it's totally acceptable to whip out a lightsaber because nerddom has come to the forefront, as we'll see with this episode.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of begins and ends with the Mario movies. The first one in the early 90s, really bad, totally different environment up until now. Super Mario Bros. Movie is breaking every box office record there ever has been, essentially.
Full circle.
Full circle, yeah. All right, you guys ready to get into it?
I am.
So part one is what I've dubbed the before times. So this is 1993 to 2016. There was slim pickings for good video game adaptations, I would say, during this time period.
Well, that depends on your
definition.
Yeah. Well, it's the definition of adaptation for one thing, which I have definitely thought about. So some good
yes.
things came out, which we'll probably touch on a lot of them. For example, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children came out during these times. I think it was really good, but it's not an adaptation. It's canon.
No, yeah, it's a
it's
sequel,
not a retelling of anything.
True. I guess the thing about this timeline is they're so bad that they could be good.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And we're going to talk about all that.
Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. So this movie premiered on May 28th, 1993. Stars Bob Hoskins as Mario and John Leguizamo. Did I say that right?
Close
I
enough.
feel like it's not right, but I don't know how to say it better.
What's his name again? John
Leguizamo as Luigi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I recognize.
He's a recognizable actor. Bob Hoskins is more recognizable to the older generation, I think.
And not to correct you, but it's actually Mario and Luigi Mario.
No, please correct me because I really don't know.
Just wanted to make sure you got their names correct.
So
Mario and Luigi Mario.
Okay, so this is why this film was so great and loved.
That makes sense. Mario Brothers. I never got that before ever.
Is that still true? I wonder, or do they just kind of not?
I don't believe that's true in the new.
God, I hope not.
Probably not.
So it's notable for being the first feature-length live-action video game adaptation ever.
Wow.
Yep. And despite being considered one of the worst films ever made, it has developed a cult following and is even described as a cult classic by some.
I know. I don't get it.
Well, we can't get too in the weeds here.
I would say
we'll be here all day.
It's got that 90s patina on it.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
I as a kid, I did love this movie.
Okay.
But it's super weird, super gritty, 90s style, dark.
The special effects were
Weird.
sick though.
Yeah, the Goombas, man.
I've
Those
seen
Goombas are
I've
something
seen pieces
else.
of it, but I never saw it until I was like older or like. By the time I cared, I was like, man, this is really bad.
I was telling Joe, I remember at one of the next sleepovers we watched this, and there was somebody we knew who kind of looked a little bit like a Goomba, and it was
I want to know more. Please tell me more.
Goomba. And so we spent the whole night fucking just dying and was a fucking Goomba. It's ridiculous, but
They are ridiculous.
Absolutely has Goomba energy.
but they have like it's Toad. Toad's one of the Goombas, but he's like always smiling,
Yeah,
and he looks
it's creepy.
just like fucking
Toad's one of the Goombas
Yeah,
in this film.
I think so. Isn't he a good Goomba? Did you? I'm pretty
Wow.
sure. I don't want to look right now, but
I mean,
I'm
it
pretty
makes
sure.
sense. They kind of are little mushrooms.
Yeah, maybe they are like evil toads.
Weird, man. Was there
Yeah.
Was there really any Goombas in the newest film?
Yeah.
I know- yeah, there was. Yeah, there was. There was.
At the meeting where Bowser was referring to all of his troops.
Oh yeah, and
the
the Goomba
Goombas
was
and
like,
the-
yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Well, we're gonna get more into that. All right.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on this movie? I don't really have much opinion other than I think it's pretty trash. I think
I
it's
don't
trash.
remember much
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
not a good movie, but it's bad.
just-
It's funny.
It just looks glorious.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it looks terrible. Like from what I'm picturing,
Yeah.
it looks god awful.
The tiny heads, they're creepy, but
Yeah, I have a very big head, so I agree. Street Fighter premiered on December 23rd, 1994, right before Christmas. Stars Jean-Claude Van Damme as Colonel William F. Guile, and
Raul Julia.
yeah,
I believe.
this was his last.
Yeah, he passed away after this. I believe. I want to make sure that's right. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah,
Raul
yeah,
Julia.
it is.
He was a great actor, and most probably know him from the Addams Family movies, Addams Family 1 and 2.
Okay.
He was a fantastic Gomez.
Okay.
But he was a pretty strong actor at that point, I think. And this was one of his last roles. And I think he did it because his kids really liked the game. And so even though he was going to like pass away relatively soon, I think he wanted to leave them with like a movie that
Oh,
like
so
they
he,
would
he
enjoy.
knew
And-
he was.
yeah,
he was on the,
he was
on
battling
the way out.
cancer, I think.
Oh fuck.
Fantastic actor, gone too soon.
So Jean-Claude Van Damme won, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Guile killed M. Bison.
Okay.
A fantastic actor. Very sad.
Yeah. So this film actually loosely adapts the plot of Street Fighter 2: The World Warrior.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's not based off Street Fighter 1.
Which was not. It was just.
The story probably wasn't really there.
I don't think so. It's
Yeah.
just generic.
so I don't remember it very well. But it kind of seems like it's like a war movie type thing.
Yeah.
mixed with Street Fighter.
It kind of feels like that. I think it misses the mark on what Street Fighter is about, which is fighting
yeah.
Well, it
on the
is.
streets.
Well, because they had Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? So
yeah,
It
action
is
star.
actually more like if you actually look at the lore, like what's it called, like the Shadow Low, or I don't forget their name, but the organization that M. Bison and them run, it is like a military organization.
Okay.
And so like there are like those kind of bigger macro level like battles and conflicts in Street Fighter lore,
Yeah,
but
it makes sense too. Like Guile is a colonel. So
Yeah.
he's in the military. I'm assuming. So I can kind of see that they went that way.
Hmm.
I don't know.
and Kylie Minogue was in it too.
Really?
was she
Cammy.
Cammy? Oh wow,
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
that is cool.
So this film received generally negative reviews upon release,
Hmm.
but was still a commercial success. It made around $100 million, so it still did pretty well.
So probably like
get
a
it.
standard
I get it.
Jean-Claude Van Damme movie at the time.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, Canadian hero. Is he Canadian? No, he's from Amsterdam.
I don't think he's Canadian.
I don't think he's Canadian at all.
I used to love his movies though.
Well, and Jeremy Hardy's Canadian.
He is Canadian?
No, I don't think so. She said in your heart.
He's Canadian to me. I thought for sure he's Canadian.
He's an honorary Canadian in Jeremy's
I
heart.
fucking hope so. It's because when I would hear him talk, he sounded French to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sounds French to me, and
Sure.
but he didn't sound. He didn't sound like France.
I mean,
French.
his name is Jean-Claude.
Yeah, exactly. He sounds
it-
like he'd be from Quebec.
Take a second though to recognize Jean-Claude was huge in the 90s.
Yeah.
He was a
like
star.
Jack. He was jacked.
Yeah, he was massive.
That's
He
probably
was
why
one-
the movie did so well.
He was huge.
Yeah, he I mean, he was, but just even as a star, like he was like I don't know who The Rock is now, whoever I don't know who the big guy is right these days.
I'd say The Rock is bigger than Jean-Claude was then,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a good comparison.
I don't mean in size. I'm not going to size. The Rock is
I'm
kind of
only
a
talking.
beast on
I'm
his
only
own.
talking about size, just to be clear.
Jeremy's after the intro. Jeremy's very
Jean-Claude
much
wasn't
focused
big
on
though.
size.
He wasn't big.
No,
wasn't
he's
very
just
big.
he's just like
He's,
toned.
he's
so-
muscly, yeah.
martial artist.
And he actually does know martial arts. Like he's not.
Yeah,
He's not.
yeah.
He's not faking it.
Although
so
when you
much.
look at the edits on things back then, like
Yeah.
the fights are so campy. Like it's clear that they're not even hitting each other.
No.
And they're exaggerating everthing.
Jean-Claude though, he peaked in that commercial. Where
Which
he's like, where he's like fucking splits across two trucks or whatever.
I
You ever see that commercial?
vaguely remember.
I always liked Jean-Claude.
He's a likable
He's a cool
honorable
guy, yeah.
Canadian
Like
man.
he's
Hopefully.
everything that Steven Seagal wishes that he was.
Yeah, I agree.
It's scary though.
Fucking
We talk
agree.
about these actors. It's like at any point, some of these guys could have been called down like the Me Too movements, and we would have no idea. Like these people could be
Yeah.
sexual abusers, and we may not be aware,
Well-
which is unfortunate. But just
Yeah.
the times we're in.
Yep. No, it's true.
So
It's
if we are
absolutely
not
true.
aware of something we're calling out here, and we're calling somebody a great actor, forgive us. We don't know.
Yeah, don't cancel us.
Yeah.
Alex is well practiced at CYA, right?
See
Cover
what?
your ass.
Oh well.
That's what you do in business.
Yeah. Well.
Make sure you're
This is
covered.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you should always cover your ass, but also don't hurt other people.
Yeah. You got to cover your ass when you got a girlfriend who lives with you.
Yeah.
Who just constantly pokes you in the bum. You learn quickly to cover your bum.
I have a sixth
Literally-
sense for it, Alex. I just know you can't get me. Nobody can get me.
Constantly pokes me in the butt, and I can't. There's nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly,
insane.
I would feel disappointed if I don't get poked. Next film we're going to talk about, Mortal Kombat, premiered on August 18th, 1995. Now, this film primarily adapts the plot of the original Mortal Kombat, with elements taken from Mortal Kombat 2. It received mixed reviews from critics, but was generally well received by fans. And I want to say I saw this film in theaters when it came out on like opening weekend, and I love this film.
I gotta say,
I love this.
little fact. You know how the Joe Knight's Tale, like he saw it a million times in theaters.
Yeah.
This was that movie for me. I think this is the movie I've seen the most in my life in theaters.
Oh,
I think I
wow.
saw it like 3 or 4 times.
Okay, good. We're filling all the fucking history here.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah.
Not really, but you know what I mean. Like for the time, actually not a bad.
I
Video
think
game
it's
adaptation.
honestly like it would still have kind of the 90s cheese,
Yeah.
what you mentioned with Mario and even Street Fighter. I mean anything from the 90s really.
Yeah,
But
closest.
if of the three we've talked about, for me Mortal Kombat would absolutely be the best of the
Yeah,
bunch so
same.
far. Yeah. I remember seeing it it was someone's birthday. I would have been 6 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know if you should be watching Mortal Kombat in theaters when you're 6, but I would like to point out my mom took me to Jurassic Park when I was 4. So, that's where I'm coming from.
Different times.
Yeah. Fun film. It was commercially successful.
Good.
125 million on a 20 million budget.
Wow.
So that's pretty good.
Gotta
Big
say,
numbers for back then.
yeah, it is. The casting of Raiden or whatever was
Yeah.
hilarious.
I just remember
That guy.
Johnny Cage and punching
Joe was talking about Goro.
Goro in the nuts.
I remember
That's his weak spot.
the your soul.
My
is-
weak spot too.
Your soul is mine thing. That will ever.
Your soul is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to watch it. It's been a while. When's the last time you've seen this film?
It's been a long time.
Been a while, yeah.
But you've seen it so many times.
Yeah, I watched it after that many times too. Like I really liked it. I loved Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter as a kid. Like I would play those games on
Yeah.
both NES and Genesis. I think I had a couple of them.
Yep.
I want to. Are we moving on to the next one? Or
Yeah. No.
Okay.
If you guys want to mention,
I didn't
anything, go
do
for
the
it.
research for it, but I just want to shout out Double Dragon. This
Yeah.
came out around the same time. Obviously, very similar to Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Except he was a beat 'em
It
up,
was beat him up. Yeah. Close.
but I think it actually had some big stars in it. But like, I don't think it was anything special. It wasn't a great movie.
I didn't. Yeah. I kind of base this off of like things I remember, but also like what was like generally the most successful in
Yeah.
this timeline. Maybe mainly like commercial success is more what I'm looking at.
I don't think Double Dragon made it very far,
No.
but interesting watch.
Okay. Next film, Lara Croft Tomb Raider,
We've all seen this, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
premiered on June 15, 2001, and I have a memory. Is it 2001? I remember seeing this with the class. I remember going. I guess it would have been at the end of grade 7.
No, grade 6.
Grade 6, yeah. I remember Miss Tenwell's class, we went to see Lara Croft Tomb Raider as at the end, which makes sense because June 15th, end of the school year. So that's my main memory from this film.
Wow, that's
It
good memory.
stars Angelina Jolie as the titular Lara Croft.
Nice.
Nice, Jeremy.
I wasn't. Did I do a thing? I wasn't trying to. I was not trying to do that.
Okay.
Her
Nobody
perfor-
believes you.
Her performance was praised, but it received generally negative reviews upon release. But it is the 12th highest grossing video game of all time, adaptation of all time, currently.
Wow. I thought it would be higher.
I updated this a few days ago.
That's cool though.
Yep. So it did really well. But Angelina Jolie was a bankable. It still is a bankable
Big star,
actor
yeah.
for sure. You know,
And that was her absolute prime.
it was peak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peak Angelina.
Yeah. I mean, that one would be in the running for my favorite video game adaptation of all time. I was huge
Wow.
into the Tomb Raider games.
You did like Tomb Raider,
I was
yeah.
huge into the Tomb Raider games. I put many hours into them.
Me too, Joe. I spent many hours at that mansion running around doing absolutely nothing.
I never really got
The training
I was
level?
not into. I wasn't a big Tomb Raider person, but
I just remember like it was a tense game playing that.
I couldn't. I literally rented it, ran around
It
the
was
mansion,
Tense.
and that's it.
It was a tense game.
I'm thankful for Tomb Raider because we got Uncharted after.
True enough.
I feel like that was
But
the
Uncharted, controversial opinion, doesn't hold a candle to Tomb Raider.
Wow.
Doesn't even hold
That's
a
a
candle.
controversial
That is
opinion.
controversial. I mean, Uncharted 4 is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe not top 10, but it's in the top 20.
Lara Croft, 20 million times better than Nathan Drake.
Wow.
She's very iconic. She's very important to the gaming for Sony too. Like back in the day. Yeah. No, it's not that controversial to say that maybe they're both very important. All right, the next film, again, another one I remember seeing in theaters. Final
too.
Fantasy: The Spirits Within. So this premiered like a month later, July 11th, 2001. It was actually directed by series creator Hironobu Sakaguchi, and it received mixed reviews from critics. It's considered a box office bomb with a budget of 137 million against a gross of only 85 million. So this lost Square Enix like $50 million.
I would say this is my biggest dislike on here. Honestly, I haven't rewatched it again, but I just remember the disappointment of seeing it as a child in theaters, and being like, "Where are the Chocobos?
Yeah.
Where are the Moogles? Where is Final Fantasy?"
Oh yeah, it's so interesting that the series creator, like, it's almost like it was designed as if it were a Final Fantasy, because every Final Fantasy is very different from the other ones.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like all those games have the connective tissues of like as you're saying, the Chocobos, the Moogles, the magic. Where's the fucking magic in this thing?
The
You know? It's a
CGI was
sci-fi
like
film.
spectacular in it, right?
It was.
So I guess that it's like more of a technical masterpiece. than-
Yeah.
Absolutely was. I remember what's the main character, Aki Ross or whatever. The film's failure nearly bankrupted SquareSoft, which led to an accelerated merger with game publisher Enix.
Which-
So this film essentially created Square Enix. They were already in talks beforehand, but once this happened, they were like, yeah, I think we're falling on hard times.
How the fuck you just put out Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, and 9,
Yeah.
and you're almost bankrupt from one bad movie?
Yeah.
And like Final Fantasy X was like had deep into development at this point.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's
Crazy.
because back then, especially like video game budgets were much smaller than movie budgets,
This is
right?
true. Now
So
video
they
game
were
budgets
they
are
were
higher.
punching in a different industry well above their weight, I guess.
I guess so.
Yep.
It seemed, I don't know, I feel like they needed to bring more like Hollywood people in to it to bring it more mainstream appeal and make it fun.
Yep. And that's kind of the theme of this whole, what I would say the before times is that it just, they all of them kind of miss the mark
Yeah.
on what makes the franchise special. Like,
Yeah.
what is it about that game that would translate to a film? And it's like, no, they're basically using the name and some key elements, and then they're just kind of they're just going wild with it. It doesn't seem very thought out.
You need writers to like understand the content,
Yeah.
but also understand the movie audience.
Yep. So the next film, Resident Evil, premiered on March 15th, 2002. It loosely adapts elements of Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2, which makes sense because it is set in a mansion, and kind of the beginning is very similar to what I remember of the original Resident Evil, but then it kind of goes crazy with it. And then there were 6 films or however many films afterwards. Received generally negative reviews upon release. I loved it. I saw it in theaters. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I saw it with my dad.
Yep.
Is
I
this?
saw it with my cousin Kim took me.
I think I saw it too. But is this the one? What movie am I thinking? I think it's a video game movie where they're in like this room with lasers and they all get cut up. Is it this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
I
Crazy.
remember liking Resident Evil movies. Like,
I remember liking the first one.
and who's the star? Is it
Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
And she was good.
She is good. Kicked off the commercially successful Resident Evil film series. There's 6 films in total, and the series has collectively grossed over $1 billion, 1.2 billion. So it's one of the biggest film franchises, video game adaptations for sure. hugely successful. Even Resident Evil fans a lot of them kind of like them despite their better like judgment or something. I can't say I've ever really watched much past the original.
I
Not
think I
being,
watched the first 2 or 3.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think I watched the second one and thought it was like not very good, and
Yeah.
then never continued. Silent Hill.
Never watched this.
I don't remember watching it. I played the games. I don't remember watching the movie.
This is a few years later. This came out on April 21st, 2006. Critically panned upon release, but was generally well received by audiences as a mostly faithful adaptation.
Huh.
And I agree. I've seen this film actually more than once, which means if I watch it twice, I'd probably like it. I have never played Silent Hill, but from what I know about Silent Hill, it seems like it absolutely nails what Silent Hill is. I'm a big horror fan as well. And, you know, like I said, critically panned, but actually audiences really like this film. And we're going to get into more of this later. But there's a fun fact here I have for you guys. You'll like this. One of the few films featuring Sean Bean
Oh,
where he miraculously does not die.
fantastic.
Yeah, so
Of all movies for him not to die in.
it's
Yeah.
got that.
It's
I don't
a
think he
horror
ever.
movie.
I don't think he ever goes to Silent Hill.
Okay.
and that's probably why, because he would have been done for. Filmed on location in Ontario, Canada.
Ooh.
Yep, filmed in Canada. Next film, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, premiered on May 28th, 2010.
Didn't watch this.
Did not watch this. I remember there being like a thought, at least in the media, that this was going to be the film, the game adaptation that was finally good. You know, and I think the next film probably had that expectation, maybe also.
Right.
Starring Jake Gyllenhaal as Prince Dastan of Persia.
Yeah.
I've never played Prince of Persia,
Yeah.
Sands of Time, any of them.
I did, yeah.
Feels like that's a Joe game.
I played the game like the game. I remember, I don't remember much of the movie, but I remember watching the movie and liking the movie.
Yeah.
Thinking back, like Jake Gyllenhaal's an odd choice to
Yes.
play like a Prince of Persia.
Yeah, he's white. He's like super white.
But I mean, I think at the time, like it worked. I mean, I don't go into these movies expecting like a masterpiece. It's
No.
just
Yeah.
a fun film to capture the video game, right? Like,
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think it did that.
So if it does that, and that's probably why, you know, it received mixed reviews rather than it being critically panned. So it was like, it was fine, kind of what you're saying. It was fine.
It was fun.
Not overly offensive to the fans. But it is the 8th highest grossing video game film adaptation of all time. So it's in the top 10.
Now, are these inflation adjusted numbers?
These are based off of Wikipedia, so I don't know.
They're probably not.
I'm not sure. Yeah, no, probably not. All right, so the last one in the before times
This one hurts me.
this one hurts Alex.
Why
Yeah,
does it hurt you?
Warcraft,
Because
the
it
Warcraft film.
yeah, it like did you like it? You liked Warcraft?
I liked it.
Yeah, it was okay, but like I guess when you have such an ingrained audience at the level they did at this time in 2016, like this was around what was this Mists of Pandaria maybe? So this wasn't that far removed from Wrath, like the peak of WoW. Warcraft still kind of had a lot of sway with people, and I think they had a chance to really make something of this series, and it just didn't hit. It just didn't hit.
Again, for me, I didn't necessarily go into it with huge expectations
Oh, I
because
did.
I didn't I wasn't huge into Warcraft. So to me, it was just like, this looks cool. It's a fantasy film. Like
I was expecting Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3. I was expecting a film series, and it just didn't
Deliver.
No.
I thought, I mean, it was fun. Visually, it was cool.
Yes, it was.
So I liked it. Honestly, that movie got me into the books.
Right.
And like I delved into the books and I liked a lot of the lore behind it.
It was the
really,
first war, right?
Yeah, I think it was right after they come. This stuff's fuzzy for me now, but they come from like another planet, right?
Yeah, they come from Draenor.
From Draenor, yeah. So I think it was that war when they first come
So
over.
okay,
right?
so the Alliance
Yeah, when they
wins
just
that
open
war.
because the
dark
orcs
portal.
open the portal and then
They come through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it was before. Yeah. Warcraft 2, the Alliance loses. They flee from Stormwind. They go up to like Lordaeron. Is that Lordaeron? My brain is like. I think
the number of hours you spent on Warcraft.
Yeah, I know. It's been a couple years now, though. Where Arthas's father's
Right.
kingdom, and then Warcraft 3 happens, and that all goes to hell too. But
So you were disappointed in this film.
I was disappointed. It's because I really like, probably because it critically didn't do as well as it should have. It wasn't like a standalone, like a good movie in itself.
Yeah.
And I was really, at the time, I was really disappointed because I loved Warcraft. I still do love Warcraft, and I wanted them to do something with this and make it a big series.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. And I've highlighted this as kind of the end of the before times because I feel like the hype for this film, it had a huge budget.
Yeah.
At least the trailers and stuff. I never watched the film, but the trailers of it looked actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, it doesn't really nail what Warcraft is about. It was directed by Duncan Jones, and I don't know if you know him. That's the son of David Bowie, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Premiered on June 10th, 2016, so somewhat not even 10 years old yet. And it was the highest grossing video game film adaptation of all time up until a couple weeks ago.
And that makes sense because it wasn't a horrible movie, but the fact that we didn't get Warcraft 2
And
shows
it was highly cinematic. I went to see it in
Yes.
theaters, so it was like a movie you go and you see in the theaters, and it's cool.
And it made $439 million at the box office.
Right.
But I will say it had a very high budget from what I was reading, so it actually didn't make that much money.
I mean, it makes sense. There was a lot of CGI in there too, right?
Yeah, I think honestly, if they had brought in like you'd have to do the research. I haven't, so maybe I'm speaking on my ass here, but I feel like if you had brought in like Metzen and these other guys and let them have a bit more control in decision making, it probably would have hit it because I think it was close. I think the fact that you have this at the end kind of is a good lead into because it is the closest at that point up to kind of the amazing stuff we're getting into now.
Yeah, and we're getting close. Okay, so based on the titles we have discussed, what's your favorite from this time period? And which adaptation should be avoided at all costs?
Can I see this?
Yeah, so here.
Okay, so it's easy for me. Tomb Raider's my favorite.
Tomb Raider's your favorite?
Hands down.
Yep.
And Avoid, I don't know. I don't feel that strongly about any of them.
That's fine. That's fair. Yep.
I would say my favorite's Warcraft.
Yep.
And the one that should be avoided is 100% Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. For me, it's actually pretty easy. It's got to be Silent Hill. Of those films, it's the only one I've rewatched Mortal Kombat a few times, but do I actually think it's a good film? No, I think it's a fun film. But Silent Hill is, to a horror fan, it's a totally good horror film, and it seems to nail mostly what the series is about.
Right.
Again, I'm not a huge Silent Hill person, so can't really say, but the one that should be absolutely avoided at all costs is the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I fucking hate that movie.
Wow.
I've never even really seen it that much. That's how much I hate it. I can't get through 20 minutes of that film without wanting to smash the TV. It's
been a
so
long
bad.
time since I've watched
It's so
it,
bad.
so I don't
It's
know.
really bad, guys. But it's okay. It's okay to like it. It's not better than the new one though.
It's better than Final Fantasy: Spirits Within, though. Or you're saying like, you
Spirits
think-
Within would be like probably the next one on my list of ones to. Well,
I mean,
it's hard to say
that's a-
because I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because it's not a Final Fantasy thing, really. It doesn't feel Final Fantasy at all.
It doesn't.
And Super Mario Bros. Movie does not feel like a Super Mario.
But you think
thing.
that right now you would recommend, like, given that it's CGI?
So if you put a gun to my head and forced me to watch all 9 of these films,
Yeah.
and so the order, I would probably watch Mario first just so I could get it over with. I will never watch that film even for like, I don't know, like the older we get, like, do you really have time to be wasting? Like, we're getting seconds closer to death with every moment.
Absolutely.
Well, you're
not.
really going to spend an hour and a half watching this piece of shit?
There's so much content these days.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Why would you?
100%, no.
Why would you?
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So now we're getting to the little shout out section. These are things
Okay.
that are not necessarily adaptations, but they get shout out because I think they're actually pretty good. Two of
Sure.
them here. Shout out number 1, Pokemon the first movie.
Yeah, fantastic.
Fucking hype.
Great movie.
Great movie. Premiered on July 18th, 1998 in Japan, and November 12th, a day I remember fondly, 1999 in North America, because I remember the nice promo cards, man.
Yeah, sick.
Pikachu,
Yep.
Electabuzz,
Dragonite.
and what's the other one?
What would you say? Pikachu, Electabuzz, Dragonite.
Mewtwo.
Yeah.
It's Mewtwo.
And then you got your cool little Mew.
That's the second movie.
Is that the second?
Yeah.
It's 2000.
Ancient Mew is Pokemon
Oh,
2000.
wow.
Which Pokemon 2000 is the better film,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
They're both great movies.
I didn't show them both out because, well, you know. But they're both really good. I really like the first 2 Pokemon movies.
Yeah.
But again, not adaptations. It's canon to the... like, this film takes place during the Indigo League. first season of the anime. So, but is the anime an adaptation? So maybe this is an adaptation.
I mean, no, technically,
It's hard to say.
Technically, Ash is his own guy. Red is a different
Yeah, that's true.
person. It's kind of like a multiverse thing, but he's if Pokemon Red and Blue are the original universe, Ash is quite a bit further over. He's kind of
Yeah.
like a very
Yeah.
distant version, but
But I guess you could say that the anime is an adaptation
of Pokemon as a
Red
whole.
And, at least the first season was was
Sure.
Pokemon Red and it kind of always.
I guess.
Honestly, I don't really know. I thought this was like cut and dry. Now I'm not so sure.
I get adaptation. It is technically an adaptation. I guess if you look
Yeah.
at the definition, yeah.
All right.
Adaptation, it has to follow the original story of the source material.
And by
That's
that,
true.
you could say the gym leaders are the original story. So
Yeah.
theoretically, I guess it's an adaptation.
All right. Well, anyway, shouts out. And it's the 17th highest grossing video game film adaptation of all time. Still,
movie.
173 million plus over 10 million home video units are estimated to have been sold. $59 million they made just in terms of VHSs. I had one. I don't know where it is now, but
Yeah, I have.
probably in a
somewhere
landfill
too.
somewhere. Shout out number 2. This would be if this were a video game adaptation.
Yeah.
This would definitely be my favorite from this era.
Fantastic movie.
Final Fantasy VII Advent Children.
Boy, oh
Released
boy.
on September 14th, 2005 in Japan and April 25th, 2006 in North America. It has a 50% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but 84% audience score.
Yeah.
Which is, in the next section, we're going to refer to that a little bit more. The CGI at the time was really great. Like, just as good, maybe not technically as good as Spirits Within was for the time,
Yeah.
but in terms of, I mean, it was really good CGI. And it nailed what Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII is it is Final Fantasy, peak Final Fantasy.
I mean, there's still pieces of that movie that are
Yep.
even in like Final Fantasy VII Remake.
And it was directed by Nomura.
Yeah.
Yep,
Fantastic. But this,
Nomura did what Sakaguchi couldn't.
to be fair, it's just, well, Nomura does a lot of things that Sakaguchi couldn't do.
We can't speak ill of Sakaguchi.
I love Sakaguchi
I love
too,
I
but-
love Sakaguchi.
But
His favorite Final Fantasy game is Final Fantasy 9, and that's also mine. So,
me and Nomura,
we
man,
agree.
we're in the same wave. Like, I don't remember those days of me fucking the boy who cried wolf about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Those early 2000s.
Yeah, I know.
Every fucking E3.
You
It's
had
gonna
to-
be here, guys.
Yeah, you were one of those guys.
And then it came.
It did, man, and it's fucking good, man. It's so good. So it released on DVD and UMD. So if you guys remember UMD, PSP,
Sure do.
This would have been a big one. This would probably be the game to have on UMD because it just makes sense. Also, Crisis Core came out,
Yeah.
so there's that kind of synergy. But for me, it definitely is a early bright spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, early.
I agree.
Yep.
Are
Fantastic.
shoutouts supposed to only be like good movies?
No, you can show if you guys want to shout out anything, go for it. No, my shoutouts were things that I didn't think were technically an adaptation.
Yeah.
So
So the one that I would add, that I would say, like, you could make an argument for being an adaptation. It didn't do well. Assassin's Creed.
yeah, this is one I
Same
looked
year
at.
as Warcraft. I would say
So-
the only way you might argue it's an adaptation is that the core thing that you're replicating with Assassin's Creed is not a story. It had its own original story. It's just a gameplay loop and a mechanical system, and so it brought that into a movie. And so in that sense, it's kind of an adaptation of what really is valuable about Assassin's Creed.
I think everything we talked about could
But I liked
probably
it.
be argued
Yeah.
to be a
Yeah, but I mean, I must just have low standards. I liked it. And I think audiences didn't mind it. It was just kind of a movie you watch. You're like, oh, it was kind of cool. And then you shrug and you forget about it.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no. Honestly, Joe, I looked at that because it is one of the more successful big budget films. I honestly just
Well, it
didn't-
lost a lot of money. It definitely lost a lot
Yeah,
of money.
okay. I didn't include it because I just don't like Assassin's Creed, as you know. So, I'm just,
The bias.
the bias here is
There is some
it's not going
editorial
well.
bias in our
Absol-
podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Extremely biased.
That's why you're here, though, Joe.
That's why you're here, Joe.
Yeah.
Tell me about Microsoft and Assassin's Creed, and you
Ubisoft and-
keep me in line. Yeah.
Right.
I'd say even Assassin's Creed much better than Uncharted.
I will say Ubisoft, though,
I'm just kidding.
going forward in the next section, they've actually, they've had a hand in a fair few adaptations that you wouldn't necessarily think about. Okay. Anything we want to talk about before times, or are we good to move on to the main topic of the show, which is the rise of the video game adaptation?
You're good to go.
Okay,
on.
we're good. So here we're going to discuss 10 video game adaptations that achieved critical and or commercial success and made us believe that video game adaptations can actually be good. So we're going to start, and this is 2017 to 2023. So 2017 until now, essentially. Castlevania Netflix. Premiered on July 7th, 2017. Has a 94% critic score and 90% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. The first 2 seasons adapt the story of Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, and the later seasons take characters and elements from Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Fucking binged it.
It's crazy good.
Yep.
It's an amazing series.
We actually, I feel
we
like,
talked about it.
I feel like we did, but
Yeah.
I think like I don't know what happened. I really like this Castlevania Netflix adaptation.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff. Okay, the next one, Detective Pikachu.
I was talking about this movie like today, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Warner Bros. Pictures released this. Premiered on May 10th, 2019. 68% critic score and 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. So generally well received.
Yeah.
Loosely adapts the Pokemon franchise and the 2016 video game of the same name. So there is a Detective Pikachu video game
Yep.
actually for 3DS.
Yep.
That I never played. Have you ever played that?
I have not. I know of it, but I never.
I remember we saw this in theaters together.
We did.
Yep. And who didn't like that film?
Dick.
Yeah, he hated it.
He did.
He wanted to leave so quickly.
Which I don't understand. I don't know
Yeah.
how you didn't like seeing the Pokemon world and seeing Pokemon around and
I expected I was gonna hate it, and I thought it was like
Good.
totally unoffensive and actually good.
yeah, it wasn't excellent. It wasn't great.
no.
But it was good.
It was at least it was at least a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, probably. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, we were actually, me and the girls and Taryn were actually watching Dungeons and Dragons last night. We had to pause it because they got bored. Me and Taryn are gonna go back and watch it. But the
wanna watch
guy from that, I'm pretty sure, is the main character in this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the main guy, not Chris Pine.
Yeah,
but
oh,
the,
yeah,
the sorcerer kid
Yep.
is the main character in this.
He was in Jurassic Park also.
Yeah.
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 So again, the synergy of the nerdy,
I know.
open to nerddom.
And Ryan Reynolds, of course.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds is the voice and facial motion actually capture for Pikachu.
Yeah, and he's the dad too, right? They get like fused or whatever. Remember the storyline?
Yeah, and then at the end, it's Pikachu's just back to being Pikachu.
Exactly.
That's weird, and that's something I actually just I don't know how I remember that actually.
Huh.
That's crazy. That's crazy shit.
Ryan Reynolds, man, he's involved.
Ryan Reynolds is a
sick.
great Canadian, and I confirmed Canadian.
Confirmed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't live here though anymore.
Why would he? It's too cold.
Where does he live? He's in Wrexham all the fucking time.
I
now,
hope.
isn't he?
Yeah, he's living in Wales,
I
man.
think they live somewhere.
They won the championship,
I
Wrexham.
think East Coast.
Yeah, I saw
They
that.
won the championship. It's
Crazy.
pretty hype.
I feel like they have multiple houses probably, but I feel like they're like closer to New York or something.
Well, he's married to Blake Lively, and that's really, I mean, that's just lovely. That's a lovely accomplishment because Blake Lively is fantastic. Gossip
is.
Girl is one of my favorite shows. It's the first live-action Pokemon film, and only the second live-action film based on a Nintendo game property since Super Mario Bros. 1993.
Yeah.
That film was so bad that it swore Nintendo off from literally adapting anything.
Yeah.
Or it was just
the
so
Pokemon
good
anime.
they didn't think they could top it until 2019.
Honestly,
That's possible.
it's it's because of the disconnect between Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. I bet Nintendo was probably saying to the Pokemon Company, "Don't do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Don't do it." And they're probably like, "We're Pokemon. We can do whatever the fuck we want."
Well, I read an article the other day, like how I think it was Hasbro or Mattel, one of those big toy companies. Like apparently Nintendo really hated them for like the plastic Pokedex they made in like the 90s, and so Nintendo's quality control has always been pretty legendary. Actually, it's probably why they're so good. One of the reasons. Third highest video game film adaptation of all time, behind Warcraft.
That shocks me that Warcraft beat.
But again, in terms of the budget versus actually how much profit it made, I think Pikachu is probably like number 2 in terms of product.
It's just shocking me that many people went and saw Warcraft.
Well,
I mean, it's
Warcraft
huge.
also like people older than us, like PC gamers who were in their 40s back in the 90s, like
sure.
Warcraft. So there's maybe the demographic has shifted now. Everyone loves Pokemon, or everyone understands Pokemon at the very least.
But even back then, I thought Pokemon was like the number one IP
I mean, I didn't go see
in the world.
Pikachu in theaters. I went to see Warcraft theaters.
Yeah, I think it just depends.
And I feel like it had a broad appeal
To people who are into
It's
just
just-
fantasy in general.
fantasy in general, or just like action.
Yeah. It was an action film. It had the guy from Vikings or whatever in it as the main kid.
Yeah, I just want to
Who
go
was
see
he? He was
people
like-
hack and slash each other.
And there's not that many epic fantasy films either, like live action, really. Like you
Yeah.
got your Lord of the Rings, and you got, since the Lord of the Rings 2000, like you got Harry Potter,
True.
and like what are the other big ones that are sticking out to me? Like in terms of epic fantasy, I don't know.
So how did Warcraft not make another? This is what I don't get. And that
I think it's because it
They lost money, right?
they didn't lose money, but they like
didn't make
essentially broke even.
But then
They
what?
probably expected like $1 billion.
Yeah.
Like, well, think about it. The money that they made on that movie was probably like 1 year's worth of subs for the game or something.
But that's
But
what
the
I don't.
game cost them nothing to get those subs. They just,
It sounds like more of an internal issue of like your expectations and analysis were completely off.
Yeah,
More so than the actual movie, which for me was the most disappointing part. Was just that it didn't take off. Like it never went
It was probably
anything.
just
So I was like,
you
what?
look at the investment and they're probably just like, well, we invest nothing and make like money hand over fist in Warcraft the game
I mean, if it breaks even,
versus
then it's free advertising.
investing a
I
lot
guess,
into
right?
a movie,
Really.
taking a lot of risk.
Yeah.
So what I would say about the before times versus the modern times is that the before times strike me as, guys in suits making decisions,
Right.
financial decisions based off of profit, like, and putting them out. And most of these ones we talked about were profitable, versus now where it's, yeah, of course you want to make, they're making more money than they ever had because they're giving the creators the control.
Yes,
and
true.
that's really important. And you see, I think generally there's more quality in terms of film content, TV content, all content across the board. Because I think creators do have more freedom to, like, I don't know, they're not so like tied down by, I don't know, the corporate side of things. I don't know if that's the right way to term it, but
I get what
that's
you mean.
kind of how it feels to me, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I think they just realized the importance of having some kind of creative director involved in the process
Yeah.
of keeping it faithful and doing a good job. Whereas before, I feel like it was like, oh, this is just a niche movie that we're going to do.
Yeah.
We've got all these other movies we care about. Now these are the cash cows are all the IP that's already established.
And the
And
suits,
it's less risk. They look at it's less risk. It already has a following. We could make our own IP, make a movie series, but then it might flop.
yeah.
Right.
We already know this has a following, so
Well, that's why we see so many remakes, reboots, all this
Yeah.
stuff. People,
we're in the age of like
yeah.
not really having a lot of originality.
Also,
Refinement of
movies.
capitalism.
Yeah.
people who have the power now, like the financial might, they're also gamers now.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Gamers.
Whereas before,
Yeah.
they were like, oh, it's a kids game. We're gonna cash in.
But at the same
But
time,
there's more
movies
care
movies themselves like have always had trends. Like,
Sure.
there's always like specific genres of movies that define different eras where it's like, oh, these were a hit and they just pump them out,
Yep.
and then eventually that ends and they move on. So eventually that might end with the current remake
Yep.
trend that we see.
But you're right.
Everything has cycles.
We're at a point now where, like, chances are, if you live in the West, especially, more likely than not, you play a video game of some kind. Gaming isn't
Yeah, there's at least
a
one video
niche
game.
thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's if you're on your phone playing a game, like, everyone's technically a gamer here.
It's probably also a product of better writing in video games too.
True.
It just translates
That's
better.
true. Yep.
So
Yep. So the next one we're going to speak of before that, though, the Angry Birds movie 2, released by Sony Pictures.
I didn't even know this existed.
I wish it didn't exist because I have, so as a gamer, I have a certain feeling about Angry Birds.
Yeah.
And to me, it reminds me of 2010 and everyone has a smartphone now and everyone loves Angry Birds. And I'm like, you should still just be playing your PSP, probably. That's how I feel when I think of Angry Birds.
Yeah.
But it premiered August 13th, 2019. It has a 73% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 84% audience score. So the audience love it more than the critics. The first film actually was not good reviewed. So it's actually, they actually course corrected it, seemingly. The sequel, based on the mobile video game series of the same name. And it's notable for being the second highest rated video game film adaptation on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's the second highest critically. That's the reason I kind of included it, because I've never seen this film, and nor will I ever.
No. Probably aimed at kids, I'd imagine.
Kids and grandmas. I think that's who plays
Yeah, true.
this type of
I
game.
played some Angry Birds back in the day.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry. Is it fun?
It was one of the better mobile games. I'm not a mobile game person at all.
I think it
Is
is
that right?
probably a very good video game. Usually things that are popular.
I don't
I
know
used
that
to
it
be
needed any kind of story with it or any kind of
No.
movies to follow it up, but
I used to be more of an edgelord, and I would just not like things because they were popular. But now I'm like, if something's popular, I assume there's probably a reason, and I at least will give it the chance.
'Cause I think it's just like it's kind of like a puzzle game, right? Like you have to, as the levels go on and on, the buildings become more
you just gotta
complex,
figure
and you
out
have
what
to,
to hit.
yeah, you got to hit the right thing,
Yeah.
and then it causes it all to fall. So it's kind of like a puzzle game.
It's like a
really.
puzzle game with
right.
not quite platforming, but you're scrolling through a level.
Well, I think in the original Angry Birds, you just like pull back and fling your
Oh.
bird.
Oh yeah,
you
I have no idea what
fling your
Angry Birds is.
And then
Really.
there's different types of birds you could fling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of like a puzzle game, really.
I don't remember
in-
like it didn't seem I don't remember it having like a paid option. There must have been a way to pay to unlock levels, but I don't remember ever
Probably.
needing that.
I don't know. I barely touched it.
Yep. Pokemon Go's better. Next film, Sonic the Hedgehog, released by Paramount Pictures, premiered on February 14th, 2020, has a 63% critic rating and a 93% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice.
Stars Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, another honorary legend of Canada. Is there an honorable ribbon you get for being Canadian, or like is there like a
I think-
you can be a knight in the
I think we just send you a bottle of maple syrup. I think that's
that they sent me one. So I guess
Well-
I'm part of the club.
There's like,
I gotta call Brian.
There's an Order of Canada.
yeah.
Yeah,
You get the Order of Canada.
yeah,
you-
yeah. Okay.
Did you just call out Jim Carrey?
I did, but also James Marsden.
I was
is
gonna
is the
say.
sheriff of Green Hills.
He's fantastic.
He's the sheriff of Green Hills.
What a guy he is.
He's got a approachable face.
I love James Marsden.
Yeah.
Man, he's
Approachable
sick.
face.
Yeah, like I trust this person.
Yeah.
Even though I don't really know too many of his films, I haven't actually watched this.
No,
No, I've tried.
you don't know James Marsden.
No,
films?
I know James Marsden,
Yeah,
but I
but
haven't
you-
watched this film.
Do you like X-Men,
I haven't really watched X-Men.
Enchanted, Disenchanted.
I like Tangled.
I mean,
That's not the same thing.
no. He. What else was he in?
I've never seen Enchanted.
Westworld.
I've never
Yep,
seen
yep.
Westworld. I would actually like Westworld. but
Westworld.
would, yeah.
The first season and second
Yeah.
season. Maybe
I heard it fell off. Didn't it get canceled?
I don't know. I didn't watch.
Man,
I watched the first 2 seasons.
I think me too.
Yeah.
Is that when it ends at the park? The last, and then they get out or something.
I
don't
think
know.
they got out or something.
Yeah, I stopped then too. Yeah. Nah.
Sonic had a bumpy ride to coming out.
well, that's what I wanted to mention. The film came under significant criticism.
Oh yeah.
For the original design of the titular character known as Sonic the
Titular
Hedgehog.
character.
There's no innuendo
Yeah.
there. Okay. So in May 2019, they actually announced that Sonic would undergo a redesign and that the film would be delayed by 3 months to accommodate this.
He's
This is
brutal.
kind of the first thing I think of when this film, having not seen it yet. I remember the outrage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause this is the divide we were just talking about.
Yeah.
People in suits versus the creators and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually.
This was maybe a very important moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, it was creepy. It was definitely creepy.
It was
though,
weird.
so.
Yeah.
On that, yeah, very creepy.
How lucky are they though that they got it out before COVID? Can you imagine they have that issue and then they delay it 3 months and then COVID hits, movie theaters shut down.
Brutal.
We probably still wouldn't have it.
Yeah. So that's kind of the reason I haven't watched it, because while the redesign is nicer, there's something about any film where it's CGI mixed with reality.
Yeah.
There's something about it that it's off-putting to me.
You gotta watch it.
And because no, I've had it on like multiple Netflix watch lists. Whenever it was on, whatever stream server was on,
Yeah.
had it. Literally many times I've been like, okay, I'm gonna watch Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm like ready to click okay, and I'm like, no, I can't do it.
Dude, it's good.
I
It's a
don't-
good movie, man.
I believe that it
Jeremy
probably is.
watches it and has an existential crisis. He's like, am I just a cartoon character? of
Sonic's my
life?
boy, you know, the blue fucking bullet or whatever.
Am I one of the
fuck they call
real
him.
ones or am I the fake one? I don't know.
I don't want to have that. I've had enough existential crises throughout my life. I'm good. No, but I do intend to watch it. Like I said, I still have it on these lists. It's always those fucking terrifying. That terrifying face is always looking at me, just
Honestly,
daring me to watch him.
it's up there. Like, I guess where it could go is like pretty cool to think. Like,
Yeah.
the second movie is actually really good too.
I have a little note on the second film here. Went on to even greater critical and commercial success. So higher
Yeah.
critic and audience scores, made more money, fifth highest grossing film of all time, which is the the sequel actually,
Knuckles
and
is
and the
sick.
original is the ninth highest grossing video game film adaptation.
Yeah, we get Tails and
But
Knuckles.
very successful critically
I
and
haven't seen the
commercially.
second one
It's
yet.
good, guys. You should actually watch.
I
It's
love
worth
Jim
watching.
Carrey, so I do love Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey's
Like
fantastic too.
he
Yeah.
is one of the best,
Yes.
and I'm sure I will love it.
The cast is great.
And we are going to speak about Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in the final section.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about Sonic, guys?
No.
Disturbing film. The next film, Werewolves Within. Now, this is one I feel like not too many people have seen.
No.
Not too many people would know that it is based off of a video game.
Yeah, no.
So it premiered on June 25th, 2021, so quite recent. Has an 86% critic rating and an 81% audience score on
Nice.
Rotten Tomatoes. Notable for holding the highest such rating on Rotten Tomatoes for an adaptation of a video game. But it's actually based on a 2016 video game of the same name, developed by Red Storm Entertainment and published by Ubisoft. So it's a Ubisoft game, and from what I could gather, it's like
Werewolf Within. For some reason, hearing that again, reminded me like it wasn't like a Telltale game, was it? Was it like similar to that?
the next one, Uncharted. Released by Sony Pictures, premiered on February 18th, 2022.
Yeah.
Tail end of the pandemic.
No, I don't know that one. Okay.
Joe brought up Werewolves Within.
Thanks, Joe.
Uncharted. It has a 41% critic rating, so not loved by critics. Considered
understand.
rotten.
I don't pay attention
But
to the critic rating.
90%
Yeah.
audience score.
That's common.
It is with a lot of things. And I used to be like pretty on critic side, but now I'm like, as we're going to talk about, another thing coming out. It's like I don't necessarily agree with the critics. I think the audience score is important. It depends though. It depends on the property. But yeah, really liked by almost everyone who likes Uncharted because it's not quite there, but it's close, and it
Yeah.
has the spirit of being a fun
Adventure movie.
action adventure.
Yes,
film.
100%. I
And that's
agree.
kind of it works to not be the tightest adaptation necessarily, because Uncharted is kind of it's supposed to be a fun pulpy action thing,
Yeah.
Like a poor man's Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
or more like I'd say it's more like Indiana Jones.
I'm
I'd
just
say
kidding,
Uncharted is
yeah.
probably more like Indiana Jones
Yeah, it
rather
is.
than it's like is similar to Lara Croft.
Yeah,
But in
I
terms
agree.
of
That's
gameplay,
That's
for
true.
sure. Full spoilers, but Mark Wahlberg does get a mustache at the end of the film in the post-credit scene. So they're definitely setting up at least a trilogy. But it kind of works. It's not quite, but it's okay. It's like a different take on
yeah.
Uncharted for me.
He's a different Nathan Drake too, right? Like he's not.
Younger.
I like Tom Holland for sure. Everyone, I feel like most
He's
people
super
do.
likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a lot smaller
Yeah.
Nathan
Yeah.
Drake. than-
Drake is bulkier for
yeah,
sure.
taller, bulkier.
Yeah.
But
But he's Spider-Man.
he is Spider-Man.
I think the most shocking thing is that Pablo Pascal didn't get the role.
He
Yeah.
would have if they casted
Should've-
it now.
If he'd auditioned, he'd get it.
He could have been Sullivan.
Yeah.
That would have been dope.
He could have been Nathan Drake even.
He
Oh,
could
I
have
don't know
maybe
about
just
that.
He'd play everything.
He plays everyone, man.
He'd
Everyone
play
loves
everyone.
it. The internet would go crazy.
Yeah.
Entered development as early as 2008 and went through development hell with various directors, screenwriters, cast members attached at different points in time. This is true. I remember hearing about this film for so long. I thought it would never come out. The fact that it actually managed to come out and it wasn't terrible,
Yeah.
actually quite enjoyable. Would watch again.
Yep.
I saw this one in theaters. It's kind of like, that's like a nice thing. Development hell doesn't end all the time.
No.
But the filming actually began in March 2020, then faced further delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, it had a bumpy road actually getting out there. Sixth highest grossing video game film adaptation of all time. So it did well in the box office, 402 million, pretty good.
I will say, I really think Tom Holland carried that film.
Yeah.
I think if you did not have Tom Holland in that
Yeah.
film, I don't think that would have
I
worked
agree.
at all.
Yeah, he's super likable, super charismatic, and it's just fun. man.
Light and fun, and that's what he brings to it, I feel.
Which is funny because that's not really what I think of with Nathan Drake, the
No.
character from the video game.
I think Nathan is pretty fun and goofy, to be honest.
But I don't know.
But
It's not an exact match for sure.
it's not an exact match. No, you're totally right.
But I guess Nathan Drake's more like sarcastic, kind of funny, maybe. But Tom Holland just brings that comedy
honestly,
In a way.
It
it's,
brings like
it's,
childlike fun.
it's not that
Yes.
much different to who he plays as Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you can, it's honestly, which isn't that different from
But
Nathan
that's
Drake.
also fantastic.
It's totally-
Who wouldn't want an action adventure with Spider-Man?
Spider-Man and Batman are still the two best superheroes, like for most people.
Yeah.
You know, but what I liked about it, what was weird, but what I also kind of like by the end was like, oh, it's okay. Like it pulls very specific themes or plot points from all out the franchise, and it kind of remixes them. So things that happen later kind of happening earlier, and it's like it kind of feels jumbled if you know the series, but it also kind of gets to the same point at the end, and it doesn't feel too offensive to me for that reason. So like it's kind of cool how they managed to pull that off, and I think if they do a trilogy, which it seems like they will, I think by the end it'll be like, okay, this is a nice little package of films here. No mention yet of a second one, really. It's funny that I haven't actually heard anything yet, but I'm sure we will. Sony's killing it right now with video games and with the film adaptations. Sony's doing good shit.
I feel like there's such a backlog of movies that people had under development. I wonder if they're just waiting to get those out and then
Yeah.
take a look and start planning new stuff.
Metal Gear Solid been rumored for about the same amount of time. Apparently, Oscar Isaac is attached.
Yes.
So there's that, but it's still there's nothing. You know, it's because it's Konami. It's Konami's fault.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Konami later. The next one is the Cuphead show. So this is another Netflix series. Premiered on February 18th, 2022. 71% critical approval rating and 85% with audiences. Loosely based on the 2017 video game Cuphead by studio MDHR, which I found it is a Canadian studio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Generally well received by critics and audiences alike. And I will say shout out to Wayne Brady, who is the voice of King Dice,
Nice.
which is pretty awesome because another Wayne Brady's Canadian, right?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure he
He
is.
definitely is.
Yeah, he's got to be.
Like 90% sure.
You're that nice, you're Canadian,
Yeah.
even if you're not.
Damn.
That one, yeah, I don't know. Not my cup of tea.
Interesting. What, Wayne Brady?
No, the Cuphead.
I was gonna say, Joe. Please, like, watch yourself.
No,
I like
who doesn't like Wayne Brady?
Exactly. He's a Canadian. Cuphead's fantastic. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's absolutely the hardest video game I've ever beaten. Still can't get through Demon Souls because I'm weak. There you go. Halo, Paramount Plus. This is the next one we're gonna talk about. Now, Joe, I think you might be the only one who's seen this.
Yeah.
As our official Xbox correspondent over there.
I don't really remember a ton about it,
Yeah.
but I watched it, I guess, probably last year. I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I just don't have the highest standards because everything that everyone says is crap. I'm just like, I liked it.
So Joe, this is probably the only instance I can really think of, not the only one, but where the critics liked it a lot more than the audience.
Wow.
So I think that's kind of telling.
Yeah.
It's based on the Halo franchise. Steven Spielberg is, interestingly enough, an executive producer, which means something. But you enjoyed it. I talked to Brandon, our friend Brandon. He said he watched it, he liked it also. I think I would probably like it too.
I like
but-
the main actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who plays Master Chief. He's pretty good.
Does he ever take off his helmet?
He does. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of downtime in like where you actually see like the soldiers as
which
like,
is cool.
people,
'Cause
right?
You don't get to see that in
And
Halo
they
so
try
much.
to bring in an element of like one of the things that makes Master Chief weird is that he does like feel like something happens and he kind of does feel emotions and he's not just purely a brainwashed person.
Yeah.
And I think that starts to happen to some of the other ones in his squad too. So yeah.
I've never played through like a campaign of Halo, so I
Yeah.
don't really outside of Cortana and Master Chief,
Yeah,
and
Cortana's in it too.
playing Halo multiplayer is what I think of, with the homies. Paramount Plus is also not a streaming service like a lot of people would typically have.
No.
Yeah.
I would never download something illegally. No chance. No chance would I do that. It was renewed for a second season though,
Okay.
so it did well enough.
That's good.
Seemingly, it has fared better with critics and audiences, and the main criticism I see is the derivative writing and alterations from the source material. So that's what people had problems with. Audiences probably thought it was maybe a little
So
bit...
derivative writing,
Yeah.
aka they didn't change it enough,
Yeah.
and derivative like. So it's one of those things you can't make everyone happy, obviously.
No, you absolutely cannot make everyone happy. That's fucking true.